Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu met with his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts Sergei Lavrov and Dmitry Kuleba in Turkey. Former student leader Gabriel Boric will take on Chile's greatest challenge since the end of Augusto Pinochet's dictatorship once he is sworn in as the youngest president in his country's history on Friday. Thursday in Palestine, Israeli forces demolished a home in the town of Khaled Ali De east of Hebron. An elderly person was among the family members living there. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Dio Martin, from the TeleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu met with his Russian and Ukrainian counterparts Sergei Lavrov and Dmitry Kuleba in Turkey. This was the first face-to-face high-level contact between the two sides since Moscow launched its military operation in Ukraine on February 24th. Officials from Kyiv and Moscow have held several rounds of discussions on Belarus, but the meeting in the southern city of Antalya in Turkey represented the first time Russia has sent a minister for talks on the crisis. Dialogue between Kyiv and Moscow has so far yielded several local ceasefires and humanitarian corridors to evacuate residents, but Ukraine nationalists have been accused of breaching those agreements. It was the first trip abroad for Lavrov since Russia was isolated by the Western world with biting sanctions. After the meeting, both foreign ministers addressed the press. In a speech, the Ukrainian high government official Dmitry Kuleba stated there was no progress made during the talks and maintained a belligerent position regarding the Russian demands.
A surrender from Ukraine, but this is not what they are going to get. Ukraine is strong, Ukraine is fighting, Ukraine made Russian initial plans fail. We are ready to seek balanced diplomatic solutions to put an end to this war, but we will not surrender.
Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov accused the European Union and other countries of acting dangerously by supplying arms to Ukraine.
As for arms deliveries to Ukraine from abroad, we see how dangerous our Western colleagues are acting now, including the European Union, which in violation of all its so-called principles and values, encourages the supply of deadly weapons to Ukraine, including thousands of man-portable anti-aircraft missile systems. Where these thousands of man-portable anti-aircraft missile systems will end up is the question we ask our colleagues in the European Union, when they are interested in putting an end to a policy that has been developed over many years of making Ukraine a threat to the Russian Federation. There is no answer as to how these manpads will be controlled.
Russia's Ministry of Defense spokesperson Major General Igor Konashenkov accused the United States of funding research into the development of biological weapons in Ukraine.
The Ministry of Defense continues to analyze documents handed over by employees of Ukrainian biolaboratories on secret U.S. military and biological activities on the territory of Ukraine. Russian experts of the Radiation, Chemical and Biological Defense Forces studied documents on the transfer of human biomaterials taken in Ukraine to foreign countries at the behest of U.S. representatives.
The existence of biological laboratories was made public on Sunday by the spokesperson of the Russian Ministry of Defense.
Besides, of particular interest was the detailed information about the realization of the project by the USA on the territory of Ukraine to study the transfer of pathogens by the wild birds migrating between Ukraine and Russia and other neighboring countries. According to the documents, the US side planned to carry out in Ukraine in 2022 work on pathogens of birds, bats and reptiles, with a further view to the study of the possibility of transfer of African swine fever and anthrax through them.
The International Atomic Energy Agency, part of the United Nations, today confirmed the safety of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in northern Ukraine. The statement from the Nuclear Control Agency assures the non-existence of a critical impact on stability after Ukraine denounced a loss of energy at this facility. The thermal load of the spent fuel storage pool and the volume of cooling water at the plant are sufficient for effective heat removal without the need for power supply, the regulatory agency reported. On Wednesday, China condemned the United States' ban on oil imports from Russia over the conflict with Ukraine, while stressing that any unilateral sanction has no basis in international law. At a press conference, Zhao Lijian, foreign ministry spokesman, announced that the policy of imposing restrictions under any pretext will not contribute to peace and security. He also warned that punitive measures harm the economy and the lives of the peoples. It only causes losses and aggravates divisions and clashes. He defended the cooperative ties between China and Russia in the energy sector and stressed that regardless of the situation, they will continue their exchanges under the principles of respect, equality, and mutual benefit. On the other hand, the United States threatens Beijing with reprisals if it keeps trade with Russia. Washington warns shipmakers not to export semiconductors to Russia. United States Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo warned in an interview with the New York Times that if Chinese technology companies violate U.S. sanctions and continue exporting semiconductors to Russia and Belarus, they could retaliate by cutting off critical supplies to these countries. On Wednesday, the Pentagon conclusively rejected high-risk Polish jet to transfer to Ukraine.
Now, the Secretary also had a chance to discuss with Minister Blaszczak the proposal to send MiG-29 fighter aircraft to Ukraine, and specifically the notion of doing so by way of transfer to U.S. custody. Secretary Austin thanked the minister for Poland's willingness to continue to look for ways to assist Ukraine. But he stressed that we do not support the transfer of additional fighter aircraft to the Ukrainian Air Force at this time, and therefore have no desire to see them in our custody either.
We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again after this. And welcome back to From the South. Former student leader Gabriel Boric will take on Chile's greatest challenge since the end of the Augusto Pinochet dictatorship when he is sworn in as the youngest president in his country's history on Friday. The new head of government will have to contend with the tensions between two institutions, a constitutional convention and a Congress that is divided along party lines. His four-year mandate starting on March 11th could be both the last under the Pinochet constitution and the start of a democratic transformation according to the schedule programmed by his team. The leader will hold around 60 meetings with the delegations invited to Santiago. Once the meeting's finished, Boric will travel to Valparaiso to receive the presidential sash from Sebastián Piñera on Friday. Heads of state from Colombia, Uruguay, Peru, Paraguay, Ecuador, and Spain have confirmed their attendance to the ceremony. In Venezuela, President Nicolás Maduro highlighted the role of his nation in the current world geopolitics within the framework of his call for peace in the midst of conflicts between European nations. In the development of a meeting with the working force of the national industry in the framework of the route towards economic reactivation, the first president reiterated the warning about the expansion of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine and its consequences. In this sense, he ratified the commitment of Venezuela to peace while making wishes for a negotiated way out of the violent escalation. Thus, he requested the support of the Venezuelan people in the face of the actions that his government is carrying out in order to preserve peace, not only in the country but in the region.
About that, I have to tell you.
On Wednesday, the World Health Organization indicated in its new guide of recommendations that abortion would be a safe intervention of primary health care that guarantees abortion pills and clear and precise information access. In the framework of Women's Day, the Sexual and Reproductive Health Director Craig Lisner recommended to eliminate barriers to safe abortions and criminalization of this intervention, and asserted that practically each death or damage caused by an unsafe abortion could be prevented, and we recommended every woman and girl has access to abortion and family planning services when required. According to WHO, abortions in unsafe conditions leave 39,000 people dead and millions of women hospitalized with many long-term injuries each year. That occurred 60% in Africa and 30% in Asia in vulnerable conditions. Guatemala's Congress passed a bill that toughens abortion criminalization and rejects the rights and existence of sexual diversities. After the third debate session, the lawmakers approved the so-called Law for the Protection of Life and Family. The law establishes penalties of between 5 and 50 years in prison against abortion in any of its circumstances, including involuntary abortions. In turn, the law restricts equal marriage while prohibiting the teaching and learning of sexual education, as well as a display or explanation of any sexual orientation other than heterosexuality in all educational institutions in the nation. Social movements rejected the initiative, which they claim increases state persecution against vulnerable sectors in the Central American nation and violates the rights of non-patriarchal and non-heterosexual minorities. In Cuba, the project of the new family code is being developed. The government of the island facilitates the conditions for all Cubans to participate in the construction of the novel proposal law. From Havana, our correspondent Fabiola Lopez gives us more details.
For some time now, images like these have been common in Cuba. This is how nights go in any neighborhood in the country. They are popular concentration meetings to discuss the draft law of the new family code. However, the idea is that not only the Cubans living on the island should contribute to the collective contribution of the future legal document. Nationals residing in more than 140 countries can also participate in the debate of the legal document by sending their opinions to the website Nación y Emigración. Some of them talked about the subject with TeleSUR by WhatsApp.
Very important for everyone, not only for Cubans born in Cuba, but also for the children of Cubans living abroad, who are many, and many have Cuban nationality.
It is of course logical that this code has been used for one of the many media campaigns against Cuba because this is a step forward for Cuban society. From what I have read, this code is comparable and in many aspects superior to the legislation in force in the so-called First World countries.
The General Director of Consular Affairs and Cubans Living Abroad of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Cuba, Ernesto Soberon, said that one of the aspirations of the initiative is that Cubans from abroad can contribute criteria based on their experience in different societies.
We live in societies which have previously introduced figures that today Cuba considers introducing, and therefore we can bring our perspective on how these figures have been working in each of our countries, the relevance, benefits, risks, and potential dangers of each one of them.
As a result of the immigration policy applied by the island, people residing abroad and maintaining their residency in the national territory keep rights and duties within the country.
There are interesting articles that concern us, Cubans living abroad, such as the transnational family, and we support all the other articles. For example, those that I have seen almost all of them, the attention to the elderly, the cases of different types of families. We agree that we have to update ourselves with the world, and in Cuba we have to be revolutionary even with the family code.
The authorities assure that the purpose is to achieve the unity of the fundamental cell of society.
We hope that we all participate in this process, that we can all contribute a bit, and that in the end we will be part of a much fairer and more humane society for today and for the future.
Cuba's commitment is to strengthen ties with its nationals abroad. That is why we hope that all Cubans, wherever they are, have the opportunity to express their criteria and participate in the defense of rights and guarantees beyond the physical place where they are.
Fabiola Lopez, TeleSUR, La Habana.
We have more news coming up after a financial break. Please stay with us. Welcome back. In Palestine on Thursday, Israeli forces demolished a private home in the town of Khaled al-Aideh east of Hebron. The house belonged to the Assadam Jaber family, which included an elderly person. Israeli forces used heavy machinery to demolish a family home in the southwest bank. According to witnesses, the family was forced out of their home without having been served any prior demolition order. They say this could be a way of exerting some quote-unquote demographic control in the occupied territories. In contrast, Israel allows the construction of thousands of units of absurd settlers and illegal settlements spread throughout the occupied territories themselves. The Fifth Commission of the 13th National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference concluded in Beijing. On Wednesday, China's top political advisory body closed its 20th Standing Committee meeting. Wang Yang, chairman of the National Committee, made the final remarks at the annual gathering. Wang called on members to play a key role in providing policy advice, strive to answer questions, and solve problems by applying their own experience and practice in the work, while ensuring a well-organized annual session for next year. And in South Korea, election authorities announced as a virtual winner the opposition candidate Yoon Suk-yeol of the People's Power Party. According to the election authorities, Yoon Suk-yeol has a slight lead with 48.4% of the votes, while the Progressive Party candidate Lee Jae-myung has 47.8% support. With these results, it is estimated that the opposition presidential hopeful could become the next president of South Korea.
South Korean citizens, wherever you are citizens of the same country, and you all deserve to be fairly treated. And we keep in mind that we are all one people and prioritize uniting South Korean citizens.
In Kenya, the first mountain bongos are released into a sanctuary beneath Mount Kenya under a world-leading program to save the extremely rare forest antelopes from certain extinction. On Wednesday, 2 young males were joined to 2 other bongos released where the iconic antelopes have not been seen in nearly 30 years. Kenya's Minister of Tourism and Wildlife, Najib Balala, said the bongo was among the most neglected of Africa's endangered mammals, despite numbers well below that of high-profile animals like elephants, rhinos, and lions. Now we are putting emphasis on them, and he also said these bongos are being rewilded at the opening of the Mawingu Mountain Bongo Sanctuary in Nanyuki. And on Wednesday, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta called on the international community to lift the sanctions imposed on Zimbabwe during a meeting with his Zimbabwean counterpart Emerson Mnangagwa.
Continue with our support of Zimbabwe against the illegal sanctions that have been imposed on that country and continue to cause undue problems, issues, and trouble for the people of Zimbabwe, and this we consider to be unfair, for these hardships are artificially created, and we continue to call on the international community to remove these illegal sanctions.
I thank Kenya for this support and solidarity for Zimbabwe in the call for the unconditional removal of unilateral sanctions that were imposed on Zimbabwe.
We've come to the end of this news brief, but remember you can find these and many other stories on our website at TeleSUR English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news from Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Leo Martin. Thanks for watching.